Hi, this is Susan Keenan. I'm here today to discuss female fat loss issues, some hormonal issues. Today we're going to talk a lot about belly fat, lower body fat, estrogen dominance, some female hormones, menopause. I hope to get to cellulite. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Who am I? My name is Susan Keenan, and I, along with my husband Michael Keenan, are co-owners of KM Fitness, health coaching and fitness training here at the Jersey Shore. I'm trying to advance to a slide that shows you, here we go, to a picture of my husband and I. I am a level 3 metabolic effect nutrition coach, and we're here pictured with our mentors, Dr. Jade Tita, owner of the Metabolic Effect, along with his wife, Jill Coleman, owner of JillFit.com. All right. My husband and I have been in business for over 10 years. We're here in Mansquan at the beautiful New Jersey Shore. So let's talk about female hormones and stubborn fat loss, and what does all this mean? What makes female stubborn fat loss more stubborn? So most programs out there make no distinction between male and females. So we're told eat less, move more. Calories, maybe they'll take into account gender, height, and weight, but we rarely never talk or hear anyone talk about the female hormones, progesterone and estrogen. I said progesterone, didn't I? I really mean progesterone and estrogen. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that impacts fat storage in females. But before I do that, we're going to do a little bit of basic biochemistry. I want to talk about some receptors that we have in our body that either allow fat into the cell, causing the cells to enlarge, or fat receptors that actually promote the movement of fat out of cells, causing the cells to shrink. So we're going to talk about alpha-androgenic and beta-androgenic receptors. And I want to keep this really clear and easy. We're going to think of A for anti-burn. So the alpha is the anti-burn receptor, and B for beta, burn receptors. These have an impact along with female hormones and male hormones that either release fat or store fat or impede blood flow. So the anti-burn, the alpha anti-receptors actually increase the storage of fat into cells, causing the cells to enlarge, and they actually mean less blood flow to the area, where the beta receptors mean greater blood flow and more of an increase to the area. All right, so let's just get those two straight. And what does this mean with regards to female hormones and fat loss, and where we have more receptors than and more alpha receptors and less beta receptors, and vice versa when it comes to men and women? So for female fat storage, women have more of the beta or the burn receptors in the midsection. And for a estrogen dominant woman, a woman who's a little bit larger below the waist, she has alpha receptors, and more of these alpha receptors, typically about 9 times more than a man, in her lower body. She may also have, if she has larger triceps, have more of these alpha receptors in her tricep, whereas a man has more alpha receptors, or the anti-burn receptors, in his midsection, his jowl, where he has more beta receptor in his lower body. All right, so that can make a lot of sense. Now, estrogen has an impact on these receptors. Okay, so that's very important, especially with the lower body, that of women. So estrogen increases the number and activity of the alpha-androgenic receptors. And in female fat distribution, where it's stored in the lower body, it's primarily due to the impact of estrogen. So we have subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. And the subcutaneous fat is a fat that sits on top of the muscle. And we have women who have estrogen dominance of the lower body actually have more subcutaneous fat that are richer in these androgenic, these alpha receptors. Okay? So the more estrogen dominance a woman has, it's going to impact these alpha receptors. It's going to be more richer in these estrogen receptors and increase the body fat in this area. So estrogen has more of an impact of these alpha receptors in the midsection, but when it comes to the lower body, but when it comes to the midsection, estrogen and progesterone actually keep a woman's waistline nice and thin. And I know that can be really confusing when it comes to talking about where we store fat. especially below the waist. So let's talk a little bit more about that fat below the waist. So lower body fat, a pear-shaped woman, okay, who has estrogen dominance has more of these alpha-androgen receptors in the lower body. These receptors slow fat release, so that's why we have this pear shape. Estrogen also makes women store more fat. We talked about the subcutaneous fat, that's the fat underneath the skin, the one we could pinch away, versus the deep fat in the middle of the body. So the visceral fat, that hard fat, that dangerous fat, estrogen doesn't seem to have that much of an impact on that. So that's why a woman's waistline may be a little bit thinner. Estrogen has a different impact on that deep abdominal fat, and so that may be one of the reasons why a menopausal woman, especially a menopausal woman who had more of a pear shape in her menstruating years, when she goes through menopause, she doesn't have as much estrogen, and so all of a sudden she may say, gee, I'm not as estrogen dominant in the lower half, I'm not getting as big there, but now it's all coming to my waistline, all right? She actually lost the influence of estrogen in the lower body half, but it switched right to the waist because now she's got less estrogen and less progesterone, all right? Lower body fat, estrogen dominance, conditions that are believed to be related to estrogen dominance could be fibroids, fibrocystic breast, ovarian cysts, endometriosis, breast cancer, PMS, and polycystic ovarian syndrome. So a high fiber diet may help. Regular bowel movements help decrease estrogen exposure because estrogen can be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, okay, causing more of this estrogen dominant and alpha-androgen receptor type of problem in the lower body fat of pear-shaped women. But before we get to an apple shape type belly fat, I want to go over a woman's menstrual cycle. So let's talk a little bit about this. So let's look at a normal 28-day menstrual cycle for a woman. We have day 1 is where menstruation begins, and we have day 28. So day 1, down here at the left, all the way to day 28. What happens? Day 1 through 14 is what's called the follicular phase of the menstrual cycle. And this is a time, if you look at this pink line, estradiol is estrogen, and estrogen starts to elevate, okay? This is our body's estrogen, a way of getting us to ovulation, and we get that ovulation, the egg releases due to the follicle stimulating hormone. The luteinizing hormone makes the egg pop up here, and then we go through with estrogen the luteal phase when estrogen really dramatically drops off and progesterone takes over. So progesterone on day 1 is kind of flatlined at the bottom, and it pops, it starts to go up, up, up. The corpus luteum from the egg is what delivers the progesterone. It elevates, it's heightened, and then it takes us all the way to day 28 where both estrogen and progesterone drop off, and this is what causes a lot of PMS. This around day 28 right here, right before, we don't have as much estrogen, we don't have as much progesterone, we're more stress reactive, we have digestive issues because digestive enzymes work with progesterone and estrogen, and we sometimes are very gassy, we have a lot of bloating. It's really could be quite stressful. A menopausal woman is struggling with this day to day, more stress reaction, she doesn't digest her food the way she used to, she's more stress reactive, thickening waistline, she doesn't have as much estrogen, she doesn't have as much progesterone. So a lot goes on with just understanding normal menstruation. Okay, so that's my menstrual cycle. Let's go back. We talked about the pear shape. Let's talk a little bit about belly fat. All right, so where the pear shape, we talked more about estrogen dominance, but we believe with belly fat and female hormones, it's more a stress reaction versus the andrenic, the alpha-andrenic below the waist. Okay, so we see a lot of women, thin arms, thin legs, but they have a large belly. And this is more of a stress reaction when you combine, you know, a poorer diet, fat plus sugar and starch plus stress equals belly fat. But stress is the most important part of this whole shape. When stress becomes chronic or extreme in a woman, the hypothalamus, which is in the brain, and the pituitary It's actually a command center of all your hormones. They become very irritated, and you get this downstream effect. So thyroid, adrenals, and ovarian production is interfered with, and we call this the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, or the hypothalamus, thyroid, adrenal axis. So all of these things are one big feedback system. So the thyroid speaks to the adrenal glands, and the adrenal speaks to the ovaries, and they all communicate with one another. And this chronic stress in a woman leads to increased testosterone. And so when a woman has a little bit more of an increase in testosterone, she gets that thicker waistline, and she actually has lower estrogen and progesterone. And what kind of stress could this be? So we think skipping meals or taking long gaps between meals can create stress for these women. They over-exercise. Maybe they're over-exercising or not exercising enough, or they're not getting enough sleep, or their diet is too high in carbs, even healthy carbs like high sugar fruits and things of this nature. Women always say, I eat healthy, but they're eating lots of carbohydrates, beans, high sugar fruits, lots of carbs. Beans have protein, but they're more of a starch than they are a protein. So combined with things like rice, you're getting a whopping serving of carbohydrates and a whopping dose of insulin. Okay, so that can mean more of this fat storage and more stress. Cortisol is associated with stress, and more stress-reactive women, a menopausal woman, releases more cortisol and has actually higher amounts of belly fat, whether they are thin or overweight. So we'll see in our clinic women that are thin. They may be menopausal or may not. They're thin, but they have thicker waists, and their waist measurement can be a 35 or above, all right? So we believe metabolic training, high-intensity training in a shorter duration, 20 minutes or less, can actually decrease belly fat by increasing more adrenal hormones for a shorter duration of time. So skip the boot camp for that hour, skip the, spinning for an hour. It's just more stress reactive. The more stress reactive you are, it could actually have an opposing effect and just keep this thicker waistline, all right? So a shorter duration speeds up beta receptors and deep visceral belly fat, and as long as there's lots of rest and recovery and balanced nutrition that follow. So let's talk about fat-burning hormones. We believe on the fat-burning scale, insulin and cortisol are fat-burning. And I don't know why the slides advance, but I'm trying to get them to behave and go back. So bear with me. Insulin and cortisol, the catecholamines. So when we have stress and we combine it with like exercise, so stress plus the catecholamines that we get from our adrenal glands can be more fat-burning. But if we take stress, like a stressful day at the office, you're sitting down, you're working, and then you're eating because you're starving, a bunch of carbohydrates, like in the form of even high sugar fruits, can be more fat storing. So you actually want to combine stress with catecholamines that we get from our adrenal glands, can create this fat burning effect. And that is very, very important to know. The thyroid and adrenal glands are very important because the thyroid controls metabolism. Progesterone has a very big impact on thyroid glands. So progesterone combined with thyroid actually helps stimulate the thyroid. We say estrogen has the opposing effect on the thyroid, kind of down-regulating it. So too much estrogen, not good for the thyroid. Just the right amount of progesterone with the thyroid could be more fat-burning. That's a problem for menopausal women because they're not ovulating. They're not getting that stimulation of the thyroid hormone. And the adrenal glands, we just talked about the adrenal glands secreting these catecholamines, these stress hormones. But if you're overstimulated, you're going to get too much stress, and it's just this one big negative feedback system. You want a nice relaxed adrenal function, sleeping, meditating, rest or recovery. You want to work hard, but you want to make sure you recover. And at the very top of our pyramid is our estrogen and progesterone, all right? So tips, we want to watch combining fat and starch together in a meal. So the peanut butter on the toast, on the whole grain toast in the morning is not a good solution for breakfast. We believe more things like a higher protein, little lower fat, like egg whites, spinach, some vegetables, a low sugar type fruit like some berries or grapefruit or green apple is a better combination of breakfast. A lot more food, by the way. Eliminate your whole grains. Whole grains are filled with carbohydrates. Dairy, Remember the estrogen in dairy, you just don't want that extra estrogen. Alcohol can be very fat storing, and it actually stops fat burning. People don't realize that. As soon as you drink alcohol, you stop the fat burning in your body because the liver has to take care of the acetate, which is poison from the alcohol. High sugar fruits, lots of melon, lots of watermelon, melon, different high sugar fruits can impact, bananas, can impact your body releasing fat to be burned, okay? Try and eliminate these for a few weeks and see if it makes a difference for you. Hormones and menopause, and it's advancing again. All right, so what causes weight gain at menopause? So we talked a lot about that already. We already know that estrogen and progesterone dip around menopause. So you can see here at age 25 on the chart, estrogen high up on the scale, progesterone is always a little bit lower. Very high though at 25. Look at what happens after age 35. We get a 35% reduction. So between ages 35 to 50, things start to change. And at 50, very dramatic changes. At menopause, there's a relatively higher estrogen compared to progesterone ratio. And that's what's so different at age 50. And that's usually the age we get the big complaints. Oh my gosh, my waistline. Because it's the ratio. So you can see here on this scale, 25 to 35, estrogen is up, progesterone's always a little lower. It dips a little from 35 to 40, but at 50, it's very dramatic. And the ratio of progesterone is just a little smidgen. And remember I said progesterone works in conjunction with the thyroid, a fat-burning hormone, to stimulate more of the beta receptors and more blood flow, and now you're not getting that. And that's why simply cutting calories like you did when you were 20 doesn't work anymore. It's more about the ratio of estrogen to progesterone, and you have to look at things more intelligently instead of from a calorie perspective, because just cutting calories and exercising more is only going to increase your stress, making you more stress reactive. Cutting calories is going to make you hungrier, and being hungry is not a good thing because you will lose willpower. Nobody has willpower at 8, 9 o'clock at night, not even me. All right, no more willpower. And who wants to be hungry and who wants cravings? It's just not going to work. You're going to cave. That's why diets don't work. So at menopause, we have decreased estrogen to decreased progesterone. We increase testosterone. We're more stress reactive, more insulin resistant. Fat gain, increased belly fat. Okay, so estrogen dominance, just to go back to this a little bit, we talked about the outside sources of estrogen. We want to watch the outside sources. Some of those can be soy and flax. Others with smaller amounts, coffee, because they're sprayed so heavily with pesticides. If you are a coffee drinker, try and get organic. Dairy, eliminate dairy. See if that works for you. If you're very estrogen dominant, dairy may not be your friend, okay? The estrogens exogenous, the outside sources, are more of the 15 and 16 hydroxyestrogens. Those are the ones that are believed to have more of an impact on things like PMS, polycystic ovarian, fibroids. But the hydroxy 2, the estrogens our body make, are actually more protective, and those are the good estrogens. So cruciferous vegetables, that's your broccoli, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, green tea actually increase the good estrogen, the 2 hydroxy ones, and actually decrease the 4 and 16. That's why it's so important to eat all that fiber. And those fibers are carbohydrates, but that's the fibrous carbohydrates we want you to eat more of. So when you're decreasing your starchy and sugary carbohydrates, you're actually increasing the fibrous ones. All right, and see if that makes a difference if you have a lot of PMS. You're getting rid of the 4 and 16 hydroxyestrogens. So we talked about the bowel movements. That high fiber diet is going to help you decrease your waist and help stopping your body from reabsorbing that bad estrogen into your body. Very, very important to know. Menopause, how to exercise. So we spoke about exercising in short duration with weights, so weight training intensely for 20 minutes, and meditating, restoring. You want to work hard for 20 minutes and then leisurely walk as if you're talking to a friend outside for as long as you can. Remember, our bodies were not designed to sit behind a desk all day. We were back in the caveman days. We were walking 10 miles a day, hauling water, planting. We were not sitting behind a desk, very stress reactive. and eating processed foods. All right, so we have to kind of duplicate a little bit of what we did in the past. Why is all this important? Because we're getting messages from other sources, some doctors, some nutritionists even, and the press are saying everything counter to what we just talked about. Their message is eat less, exercise more. Do more jogging, do more power walking, not less. And very rarely will you hear doctors really say lift weights. Some of them are coming around and saying to do that. And really no one talks about rest and recovery centered activities. You know, go for a massage, go for a sauna. You know, these things are proven to really help. Eat less whole grain. The whole grain thing, I still hear, it really isn't helping a lot of menopausal women and estrogen dominant women. And that really matters to them. So we want to get a little bit lower insulin promoting diet. That's going to be more lean protein centered and fibrous carbohydrate centered, healthy fats. We want to be smarter about our exercise. We want to include those weight training, short duration, high intensity, but for a shorter duration. And the menopausal physiology is a lot more carbohydrate reactive and stress reactive, remember. Estrogen is really no longer there to help offset the insulin, and estrogen and progesterone are not there to dampen the negative effects of cortisol, okay? So you want to remember that with regards to menopause. A little bit about cellulite. We don't have much time, but cellulite, if you look at the slide, you can almost see the picture. It's right here. If you look at the male skin on the left and the female skin on the right, male skin has more of a collagen bond that has more of a crisscross shape. So their collagen bonds crisscross. It kind of keeps the fat in the cell, and it just helps the fat not pop out, where a woman has more of a picket fence-like effect, and the fat, and if she's estrogen dominant, she's going to be holding a lot of water, and that's going to push through the cell. You'll even notice with regards to PMS, if you're holding a lot of water, cellulite actually looks worse right before if you're menstruating female, right before that time. Okay, so things like lower carbohydrate diet will actually, you'll hold less water, you'll have more of the beta, the burn receptor activity in the lower body half. That, along with possibly some of the other effects of, like you hear about some of the laser treatments or the wraps or heating garments, could possibly work, but not unless you're in this dietary restriction of lower carbohydrates. That is first and foremost. And then actually some strength training exercises to increase the thickness of the collagen bond can also help. So the exercise and nutrition comes first, and then maybe some of these other treatments could possibly work. All right, that's the good news. Dieting doesn't work. We already mentioned that dieting, that low calorie, move more effect. We're going to increase hunger. We're going to increase energy and cravings. And willpower does not exist at 9 o'clock at night. I don't care who you are. And if you do go to sleep in a very dieting type centric phase, good luck with staying asleep. You'll maybe get to sleep, but you will wake up because you are hungry. So hunger is just you know, a monkey on your back. You really want to take care of that. I'm here to help you with that. Okay, I have currently have a program I'm promoting. I just want to give you a little bit of background about my history with this. As you can see, I have a picture of myself early in 1995. This is before I had children. So people said, oh, you gained weight when you had kids. Absolutely not. I've always struggled. I've always struggled with estrogen dominance. So is my husband. That's probably why we're in the business we're in. And we really are there, and we understand, and we want to help people figure out their fat loss formula. We figured out ours. I'm far from perfect. But I, progress with this program daily. I'm always educating myself. I've spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours researching this, and I believe I have some really valid answers. I'm here to coach you. That's what I do. I'm a nutrition coach. I currently have a program. I'm going to talk a little bit, have Debbie talk to you a little bit about her testimony, and she can tell you about the program. And her story. About a year ago, she came in, and she really was looking to, help herself with her little midsection, and you could see within a matter of weeks, She cut out the dairy. She listened to the protocols I mentioned, and she really, really did amazingly. She only dropped 7 pounds, but her body percent went down 5%, which is amazing. And, you know, she's not a 20-year-old girl. She's in her 40s. She feels 10 years younger. Her clothes fit better. She's thrilled. And she's able to maintain. She has the tools. She knows what she needs to do to get herself back into condition. So you can go, you know, stay on this program for a while. Sometimes when you go off, people notice, oh, weight starts to come back on. But you have the tools that you need to get that weight off, to get that body percent fat down, and to control hunger, energy, and cravings. And so there's Debbie's testimony. Lucille has been a client now. Here's somebody who's in her 70s, and you know, she has every excuse in the world to say I'm too old, I have no more estrogen, progesterone. As a matter of fact, I don't think Lucille would mind saying she had a complete hysterectomy, so she really doesn't have anything to help her out other than whatever her adrenal glands make in terms of progesterone and her liver makes in terms of estrogen, but she was still able to have tremendous success. If you asked her, she would say, I was eating lots of fruit. She thought it was healthy, and healthy grains and whole grain breads and things of that nature. And it just, you know, she had a lot of aches and pains, a lot of knee pain. She said all of her inflammation went away. She's very strong. She lifts heavy. She is just doing phenomenal. It's a whole new Lucille. So we're offering a program. Myself as a nutrition coach, I am starting a program this Monday. I'm going to break it into 2 parts. Part 1 is a 4-week fat flush. We're going to take some of those items I mentioned out of our diet for 4 weeks. Things like coffee, not coffee, I'm sorry. People would freak if I took coffee out of their diet. But I'm going to say organic coffee, please drink that. But we're going to take things out like wheat, gluten, dairy, alcohol, maybe peanuts. We'll have other things like almonds and walnuts in our diet. And we'll take out soy and all the grains. We're going to remove that from our program. I'm going to tell you exactly what to eat. It's going to be very structured for 4 weeks. You're going to get access to our RX Studio, which is an online portal, and in that online portal is a ton of education that we've invested over our 10 years in. 8 weeks of fat-burning workouts via video, so you'll be able to work out, know exactly how to work out via video, and it also comes with a PDF printout. We also have daily mindset emails that you'll get. It's an autoresponder. And one of the best things I think we created was a private Facebook group. It's a private group in Facebook that you can join, that you will get direct access to Michael and myself, and we will be able to coach and motivate you there. You're also going to get a 30-minute coaching call with myself to get you started, where I will talk about your brain chemistry. You're going to fill out some forms about your metabolic type, your brain chemistry. We'll review your diet, and I'll get you started. I'm going to get you started in that 30 minutes. If you're local, we can do this in person. If you're not, I can do this all online. So no matter where you are in the country, you will have the ability to be coached by myself. And that is part 1 of our 4-week. It's going to be an 8-week program, remember. Part 2 is pretty much the same membership you're going to get in our RX Studio, a private online portal with the workouts, the education, something you would check into daily, a schedule of what to work out, how to work out. We're going to more education, why calories count, but hormones matter more. You've learned so much in this presentation. Then we're going to add in a little bit of carbohydrates, because obviously I'm going to tell people you're going to give up alcohol for 4 weeks, but everyone's going to say, like, hey, Susan, when can I have my wine? And we're going to add wine, things like a little wine back in, maybe a reward meal here, maybe some of those carbs back in at this 4-week mark. And you're going to say, gee, how do I feel about that? How does my body respond to it? We'll find out what your carb tipping point is. We're going to learn about biofeedback tools. So I said, oh, when you go on diets and cut calories, you'll have things like hunger, energy, and cravings. And that our acronym for that is HEC, but we need to keep our HEC in check. Maybe we need to increase protein, fiber, or maybe even carbs, all right? Maybe we need to dial back on how much we're exercising. So all this will be discussed in part 2. More workouts. Anything we create here is going to be a part of that RX Studio online portal. We'll announce things in Facebook, and it's closed so that your friends in Facebook can't see what you're talking about. All right, so I've created this 2-part program. It's an 8-week program. You'll still be left in the RX Studio for the year, and you'll still be left in the Facebook group for the year. You'll have really 1 year of coaching. And all of this is going to only go for the price of $149. To find out more about that, I've created a sales page on our website. You can get there by typing in to a URL, http://goo.gl/UE8SQL. Or you can call our office at 732-292-1333 or email us at KeenanMedicalFitness@gmail.com, and I will send you the link. I really am looking forward to helping you and assisting you with your fat loss goals. If you're a woman, if you're a man, I can help too. I help a lot of men, but maybe you won't be in the female portion of the program. But guys are welcome to join too, or if you have a girlfriend, you're a guy and you're listening to this, please share this with your female friends. Share this video with anyone you'd like. It's been my pleasure talking to you, and I will hopefully be hearing from you soon. Have a great, great day. Thanks so much, everyone.